And that actually takes me to one of my other passions in life that maybe we can explore a little bit more. But it's this idea of bringing this flexibility and losing this structure that's too rigid and almost like grasping for control in terms of how we work. So the example of meditation is just one example, but in my life in general, I feel like control has been a big theme of mine, of like trying to control everything. And if I know where everything's at all times and what's going to happen, then I'm going to be okay.
Yep.
And that took me to a whole set of productivity tools. So I think what astrology was for you and productivity was for me, I became obsessed with everything around getting things done and doing it perfectly in habits. So, like Atomic Habits or the 5 a.m. Club or all the books, Carl Newport. I don't know if you've heard about him, but he's a big author on the productivity world. And I became obsessed with it. But the moment I did it wrong, then I was a bad person, or it just became a whole identity thing. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I was like, this is not right. Like, I need to develop a different way of working. And I became obsessed with the philosophy that I call conscious productivity, which is bringing mindfulness into the way we work and the way we create, and bringing more flexibility and bringing more creativity, and trying to, yes, you have some sort of structures. And I think it goes back to spirituality too. You have some things that support you, but you're always open to changing those, expanding those, and molding those. And I think that's when we start to play with life instead of attaching yourself to another identity. Like, now I am the person who does astrology, or that knows everything about the moon and the planets, or in my case, productivity and meditation. Does that resonate at all?
Yeah, no, a billion percent. And it's funny because it's like the ego is like this hilarious thing that if it's even real, it is you're like constantly trying to overcome it while building new ones. Like you're building these new, now I'm the spiritual guy. I killed my ego, but your ego is the ego of the spiritual guy. You know what I mean? Like, and so you build these identities, and it's perfectionism I learned about that was huge for me, like Brene Brown. Do you know her at all? Yeah, like that book was like, holy I never thought I was a perfectionist. Understanding that about me and how many things I sabotaged, tore down, wouldn't let be released, like wouldn't finish because it never was right, or like before it would get close and I'd be like, no, 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 it's not right. And then I'd take it back.
Sneaky with creatives too, because if I don't know, if you consider yourself a creative, we're like, oh no, like we try all these things and we're like constantly exploring, but then you look deeper and like, but when was the last time you finished a project? Okay, what happened? Well, I was afraid of putting it out because I know that that means finishing it, and finishing it not like it is in my mind. It's a whole thing, and then procrastination comes in, and I think it is linked to spirituality, and that's what I'm fascinating on right now. Like this side of creativity and productivity and output and whatever is it that you want to create out of life, how it's connected to your view of reality and what reality is. So if your perspective is that reality is this constantly changing, fluctuating thing, that like there's many different paths open to you at all the time, then it becomes a little bit less serious to create. And I think that's what we've been missing on when we talk about these things. Like, even when you pick a belief, you're picking to believe that it's not the final truth, right? Like, there's no final truth. So I've been in this quest to join spirituality with productivity and creativity, and it's been interesting because it's led me to work with so many amazing, brilliant people that I never thought, and realize that we all go through the same shit.
Yeah.